And I guess we're live. So here we go. You get a chance to have a little fun with me today in the sense of draw pictures on my mustache or whatever. Um, anyway, you guys are you're making this so much fun for me. You are really a couple of amazing people. I just wish the other two who signed up for the course were taking part in it. One of them did early on, and then he pretty much disappeared. I have no idea why. The other one said that he ordered a book way back in the beginning, and it would take 3 weeks, and I've never heard from him again. So, what are you going to do? But you two are making it so much fun. So Laura and Chelsea, thank you. We want to move forward a little bit, but um, let me touch upon a point here that's kind of significant in everything that we're looking at. By and large, um, most of the things we have talked about so far have been pretty religious based, okay? Now, this isn't a religion course, but we're dealing with a very different world from the world we live in today, okay? Uh, Today's world still has a significant uh, role for religion. A lot of attention is still given to religion. I think everybody would agree that our Pope, our current Pope Francis, has a profound effect on everything that goes on in our world. He is a dynamic leader. He is a terrific man. But with the world having expanded and expanded and expanded, and cultures having more and more infringed upon other cultures, so that these little islands of culture that existed way way back, uh, have changed so much. They've spread, they've overlapped each other. And of course, we saw a lot of that in the Song of Roland, where cultures were overlapping each other, the Muslim culture and the Christian culture. Okay. Um, it's a changing world. But today, all these different cultures, so many different cultures have overlapped, and our technological world causes them to continue to overlap so that, something happens on the other side of the world and within minutes we know about it. When those terrorism attacks happened in Paris, I guess it's 6 or 7 weeks ago now. Um, we had live television coverage of the police at the scene within a few minutes after they happened, because that's our world today. And it's not like that's brand new. When we had the Persian Gulf War in 1991, for the first time we had war in our living room. I'm sorry, I'm moving a little bit, and I caused the computer to shake a little bit, so I'll try not to move so that you don't get dizzy watching this. Um, we had reporters on the scene who were doing live stuff, and so we actually had war in our living room then. Fine. So we had culture overlapping culture, and so all these different forces touched upon themselves. However, going back to the 13th and 14th century, we were still involved in a rather simple world, especially in Europe and Northern Africa. Um, the world was very much Christian or Muslim, or what we might refer to as pagan. And within that world, there wasn't a whole lot of other kinds of things. And those were central cores in the civilizations. So much of what we've read has had to do with religion. Okay? This week is really not a great deal different. We're talking about, the Divine Comedy, written by Dante Alighieri. Now, he's commonly referred to as Dante, and divine obviously meaning godlike. Comedy means uplifting. Comedy doesn't mean funny, it means uplifting, in a sense, happy ending, ends on a going up kind of thing, where tragic meant ending going down. Okay, so we're looking at Dante's um, Divine Comedy. Okay, in his Divine Comedy, Dante explores an awful lot of um, how human behavior um, how human behavior determines where we will spend eternity. Okay? And so in the Divine Comedy, Dante spends a good deal of time early on in hell. Okay? And he gives us Satan not as the red fiery guy, but more like a worm in a frozen place. And of course, evil is the absence of goodness, and so freezing kind of goes along with the concept of evil, and Satan as the prince of evil would go along with being in a frozen place because it's a place where there's absence of. Okay, so that all makes sense. Dante himself was involved in political kind of structure, political church kind of structure going on in his home city of Florence. And in fact, he was eventually basically kicked out of Florence and separated from his family. There was a big battle going on as to, it isn't a lot different from our world today, political as opposed to ecclesiastical, church oriented as opposed to civic oriented. Um, the the politicians wanted to separate as much as possible so that they didn't have to bring ethics and goodness into what they were doing. And of course, the church wanted to keep ethics and goodness into everything we were doing because it should be. Unfortunately, in our world today, ethics and all of that has very little to do with our political situation either. You know, our political world. It really has very little to do with it. So, in that sense, things haven't changed that much. But that kind of struggle was going on then, as it is today. Okay, it still is going on today in this country. You know, well, it was going on in Florence at that time, and so Dante was kicked out of Florence because he got too involved. Anyway, in the Divine Comedy, um, Dante spends time in hell, looks at the way sinners of a particular kind are punished. So there's a one particular area where you can read about people who suffered from gluttony, another area where people suffered from avarice, the wanting of, greed, that kind of thing. Okay, etc., etc. Okay, then Dante introduced something new to the world, and it's an idea that actually the church didn't grasp on to take hold of and make part of its world until after that. And it was the concept of purgatory, where somebody can expiate their sins. Having shown sorrow for their sins, they can go through a certain amount of suffering, whether it's separation from God or a certain level of pain or whatever, okay? And then after that, they go up the mountain, away from the tough terrain that they saw earlier, but up the mountain through a smooth terrain toward heaven, toward, eternal happiness, toward being with God, okay? Dante paints this picture for us in the Divine Comedy. Now, it really is significant, in fact, that Dante is a writer doing this. Dante uses the names of a lot of other writers who predated him in this work. Okay, Dante was a very learned man, and so he knew about all of these writers, philosophers, people who had developed ideas to fit in with the evolution of mankind and the development of society, particularly Western society. He brought all that in, and so you'll see names of different writers and poets in there. Okay, and all of that helps to frame where Dante is going with all of this. Okay. But again, what he's doing is he's kind of laying the pathwork towards salvation in this work, showing kind of like humanity at its worst and being punished for it, humanity as he's making efforts to be better, and humanity as he reaches for the stars. So I'm not going to ask you to read all of it because it's huge. In fact, in the assignment which you'll read, you'll see that I'm giving you a lot of choice as to what part of this you want to explore. Okay. Again, make sure you read my notes in there as to when things will be due because we're changing the schedule up a little bit. Okay. Read Dante. Enjoy him. Again, don't study it like it's science. Read it and just read through it by the punctuation. It's poetry, yes, but read through it by the punctuation. Okay. And again, pick and choose in there if you want. Okay. And have a wonderful Easter. And we'll be back in touch soon. Thanks.